Welcome back to another episode of South by East, here where we talk about the scriptures, the culture, music, and everything in between. This season, we're hitting our traffic reports, and on this episode, we engage the interview that broke the internet within a couple days of the year. And I'm gonna tell you something. We're talking about the Katt Williams interview on Club Shay. And I had been following Shannon Sharp even when he was on Undisputed, and he moved over, and that whole deal went thing. And so when he started Nightcap, I knew about that, and I've been kind of following along with. I love the Bruce interview. I was laughing, different things of that nature, and that. Kurt Franklin one was just like, man, if you hadn't seen that one, it's a good one. Also, the one with Country Wayne is a good one, man.
And that's on my list. Yes,
there's several. But I'm gonna tell you, this one with Katt Williams, and if Katt Williams wasn't a comedian, he would have been a mechanic. Which type in particular? A shade tree mechanic, because he threw tons of shade on this thing.
All the shade.
And so I want to get into this, man. Like, because here's the deal: this interview was like 2 hours and 46 minutes or something like that.
Yep.
And I'm gonna tell you, to get people to come to a 1 hour church service
that's a feat.
Is a problem.
Right.
And people, I mean, this thing had like 40 million views in like 3 days.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And so one, it talks about. We talk about people's lack of attention span. They got attention span for what they want attention span.
We got an appetite for entertainment, that's for sure.
Fam, I can't even go watch Marvel movies anymore because they decided they want to start making all the movies 3 hours long, and I can't stay awake in a movie for 3 hours, man. And so even for this, I had to watch it in pieces.
Yeah,
in pieces because I got small kids, and so I just can't. I can't do it
that long, man. And when you brought this up to me, bro, I almost didn't even want to do it. I started it out and I was like, man, this is going to be some gossip. It's the rumor mill. I am not interested. And as Katt Williams got to talking, for one, he is an incredibly charismatic individual. And if I didn't believe all the things he said, which I don't, I wanted to. By the end of the interview, I was like, I hope he's telling the truth. Because he really knows how to tell a story and how to captivate. But also, as he went through, I could see some clear phrase in the way that he was presenting the information. And I was like, I don't see anybody questioning this. So the YouTube road of comments is paved with ice. It is so easy to go down that road. It is all gas, no brakes. I will get lost in that space. So as I'm watching the video, is anybody disagree? Everybody like, he's saying the truth. I'm like, but that didn't quite line up. Maybe somebody done some research. Everybody, we don't need the research. We know it's true because if it wasn't true, he wouldn't have said it. And I'm like, oh, this is bad.
No,
like,
but I want to go here though. So you hit a excellent point early on. There's a difference between being an excellent storyteller and entertainer and being a truth teller.
Truth teller, come on. Yes.
And I actually did watch another supplemental video of a behavioral specialist.
Yeah, the behavioral analysis, yep.
Analyzing that and looking for proof in research of things said.
Yeah.
And so there were some key things, and they're like, man, him running sub 4.3, but it did show him running like a 4.46. And so there was times when he, because of the excellence in storytellers, if you know really good storytellers, they tend to inflate things.
Yes, it's some
a little bit.
Yeah.
So there was like we talk about this all the time. There's a reason why you get arrested by going into a store with a counterfeit dollar, when a little kid doesn't get arrested by going in with a bill that they got from the Dollar Tree. Right? It's because the little kid's bill is an obvious fake.
Doesn't look real.
The counterfeiter's job was to try to fool you, right?
Yes.
And the best counterfeit is one that's really close to the truth.
Yep.
And so what makes a good storyteller a lot of times is they know how to shade the truth while embellishing a little bit on there to make it almost believable. But the behavioral analysis said, like, man, here's the key one too. There was a lot of things that Katt said that he's like, yeah, man, everything lines up with that being true, and with the research I've done. And then he went and analyzed the rebuttals of some of the comedians and said there was obvious deceit in their rebuttals.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Oh.
But he was like, I mean, he, like, some of the people that Katt called out, he's like, no, I analyzed everything and I went, and he's like, out of all the different views, people just kept showing proof of what Katt was saying. But when I went and looked at the rebuttals, there was key things that when I'm getting called in on cases or whatever else that show that there's deception
right
in their rebuttals.
Which is why
And he said this though. He said, now let me put on my opinion hat. I felt like Katt was really petty.
Yeah.
And immature in how he shared some of these things. And I'm gonna tell you, like, I'm gonna give you a quick rule for me. I love the unfollow feature on social media. And one of the things that causes me to unfollow people the most, you get about 3 shade comments. They don't have to be directed at me. They can be directed at anybody. But you get about 3, like, I'm throwing shade at this organization or this person.
Shadow moves,
and I unfollow you because I find that when I leave somebody in my social media feed that's constantly throwing shade, it causes me more stress. And one of the ways social media is a de-stressing thing for me. And so I like to share happy moments and different things of that nature. So you might say I live in the echo chamber of happiness.
Yeah.
Because if you throw shade continuously, I probably don't see your post.
Wow.
Because you get about, I'm serious, you get about 3.
Some people think take some notes.
You get about 3 shade comments that I see in your feed, in my feed from you, and then I unfollow you. Because at that point, you are starting to cause me stress. Not even because of what you said about me, but because I know that I'll be next.
Yeah. Man, so here's my thing, even with Katt Williams. People say women lie, men lie, numbers don't lie. That's a lie. Numbers, you can lie with numbers. Numbers don't tell any story at all. You tell the story. And you can take some very true numbers and tell very false stories.
Yes.
As I watched that interview, I saw Katt like, man, I'm bringing this up because they brought this up about me. Some of the comedians, they did. Some of them. It's like Kevin Hart, he was saying, I was like, man, you've been talking about Kevin Hart for like 10 years. Like, he has been railroading Kevin Hart for like a decade. And so I'm like, no, there's nothing recently in this interview that caused you to form this opinion. You've always been here. Then I start looking at surrounding things because I start looking at people for intention, right? Because I'm like, what is the story that you're telling me with these numbers? I start looking, I'm like, oh, Katt Williams has a tour coming up. These interviews happened when? A year ago, back here. I'm like, but Katt Williams now has a tour coming up. So now all of these Hollywood secrets need to be exposed. All of these, I'm like, I'm starting to piece together. I'm like, there's an agenda here. And people are like, well, he's just a truth teller. It just needs to be told.
He said something early on that I disagree with. He said, the truth don't need no motivation. And I'm like, oh, that's a lie.
It's a lie.
And I'm going to tell you why it's a lie. The disciples walked with Jesus. They saw him crucified and they saw him resurrected. And right before he gives the Great Commission, they're in a room scared.
Right.
After his ascension, after the resurrection, they're in a room scared. I know people who would tell you Jesus Christ is the Lord of their life. He's the Savior of their life. He's their everything. And they will not talk to people about Jesus Christ. They will not share their faith.
Right.
The truth does need motivation.
Yep.
And I'm like, so, hey, I know, man, here's the deal. I've been in too many situations where people knew the truth about something, but it was going to cost them to say it publicly, and so they stayed quiet and let innocent people suffer because the truth does need motivation.
Yep.
It just, what's the motivation? And what is the cost, and what's the benefit analysis? And a lot of times people be running real-time cost-benefit analysis on whether they want to share the truth or not.
Because that's the other side of that, is when we weaponize the truth.
Woo!
And this is an example of weaponizing the truth. Did half of those things really need to be said?
And you saw that, like, Shannon, he didn't know, like, if you go back and look at it, Shannon just kind of says hello, and then Katt like goes for 30 minutes before Shannon can even like
ask a question.
Before he can ask him about his family or anything, Katt go like just go. So Katt came loaded.
He came in with
and it's like, man, here's the deal. Here's the deal. Telling half truth and lies, and then weaponizing truth, they're just as bad as one another.
Yep, they're just as
because it's the motive and the intention behind some of this stuff, and you kind of got. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. We were entertained because we were not the aim.
Come on.
And you got to be careful when you're entertained by someone else being in the crosshairs.
Come on. Yeah.
Because I think this culture that we're in, this council culture and stuff that we deal with, man, has taught us that, man, that thing swings really quickly.
Real fast.
And so you have to be careful about being entertained, because then you become the point of entertainment.
Yep.
And that's what, like, I struggle with some of this of like, man, and really there's no recourse for stealing jokes. There's no court that you can go to. There's no patent on jokes, right? So this court of public opinion is kind of where
that's it. That's where the buck stops.
That's where Katt kind of felt where he can get his justice. And that, for us as believers though, the court of social media is not where we get our justice. It's with our Lord and Savior.
Come on.
So we should find a way to take our stuff to him when people characterize us in certain ways.
Yeah.
Because we don't have to see social media and things like that as our final stop for justice in our lives.
And that's important what you said there, is because there's a heart check. I ended up writing a verse on this the other day because I was looking at this debate between two Christian artists, Lecrae and D1.
Yeah.
D1 says something on an interview about people want to be righteous and ratchet, and you can't be both. Like we're promoting things that are sinful and acting like this is Christ-like behavior. Well, Lecrae, who's one of the most popular Christian rappers of all time, comes out, has a whole line of clothing called Righteous and Ratchet. And so he takes some personal offense. People bring it to him. He's like, hey, listen, like, da-da-da-da-da, and like this ratchetness is a part of like just our culture and these different things. And they're really talking about two different definitions of the word ratchet. But out of that ensues this humongous debate and all this shade being thrown at D1 and all this shade and hatred being thrown at Lecrae. And I look in the comments and I get heated too, right? I start long commenting and bringing all of my holy knowledge to the world of YouTube. And I start looking through and I start realizing, man, we all supposed to be out here sharing the gospel. Where's my shiny objects? Where is my heart when this has me all riled up? I'm ready to go. I'm ready to fire. And then what I end up finding out as I go back, I end up watching some more D1 interviews and I listened to him talk at length about the same topic. And I realized my problem wasn't even with D1. It was with his fans in the comments. And some of the stuff I was attributing to him that I was rebutting to, he never even said. And I started to realize, oh shoot, I became a part of the mob. And it's so easy online, especially when the truth is weaponized, to take it and become a part of the mob. And because there's a piece of truth to it, you can justify it, and it allows you to deflect and avoid reflecting on what's happening in your own heart, why you find this entertaining, and why, rather than seeking peace, you want to watch the world burn in this circumstance and
Yeah.
in this situation.
Man, I can't tell you how often I start typing and then erase.
Yeah, same.
And there's times, man, when I want to I I want to flamethrow. And here's what I know. Here's what I know. God has given me enough of a gift with words that if I wanted to use that to tear somebody down, I could.
I could.
And I have to stop. Even like, man, I try to be careful about what I share on that, because I just know, man, it's gonna be taken a certain way, and it's taking some incidents to happen that I'm like, that's not the way I meant that, but somebody took and sometimes your stuff gets weaponized against people when you didn't mean it in
wasn't
that
your
hard.
intention. Yep.
And so it makes you gun shy on some stuff.
Yep.
And so it's a hard lesson to learn though, man. And you end up hurting people, not even intentionally all the time, or you do this deeper damage. Like you thought, oh, this is gonna be a flesh wound. I'm gonna throw this out there. And you don't have to put names with it. You don't have to put different things. People can piece stuff together and know, man.
Yep.
And so, but then when you go and put names and different things on it, it takes it even that more seriously.
Yeah.
And it's wanting to steward the platforms and spaces that you have well. And what that's gonna mean is you're gonna take some hits. You're gonna take some hits, and you could have things where you could have retaliated. But retaliation doesn't heal you.
No.
That's what they never teach you, right? When people say, "Oh yeah, Jesus said turn the other cheek," well, I'm gonna turn around and backslap him. I'm gonna do this. You know, it's like, hey, fam, none of slapping back doesn't heal you. It just injures someone else.
Yeah. And I want to talk to the listener, the person who gets wrapped up in these spaces. And when I say I'm in that vein. I get wrapped up too, right? So it's not just you. Be careful. Be careful what you engage in, what you share. This type of content is like junk food. Junk food is usually full of a lot of sugar. And so it's going to fill you with a lot of quick bursts of energy. But at the end, you're going to crash, and then you're going to be lethargic, and it's going to be hard for you to get motivated. But you can do a lot of stuff hopped up on junk food. You ever seen a kid get hopped up on too much sugar? They lose their self-control. And it feels good in the moment to be going, and then later on, it's like, oh, this hurts. And when we engage in these types of things, it's like junk food for our soul. And it keeps us going. It's exciting and it's moving. And then in the end, you look back and you see just this trail of damage, not just to the other person, but even to your own heart and conscience, where you're like, dang, why was I a part of that?
Here's the deal. When you're steady dealing with people always airing grievances, it makes it hard for you to excrete the grievances you have against other people.
Explain that. Explain that.
Because when one of the processes that science uses to determine if something is living is excretion. That's where you get rid of the toxins and waste out of the body, right? And you have to do the same with your heart emotionally and mentally, with your mind. You have to take the hurts and different things and slights that happen to you on a regular basis, and you have to flush that through. You have to process that out of your system. If not, you will get so constipated emotionally and mentally that you will die in those ways, just like you would physically if you didn't excrete. Yeah. And so when you are constantly around people who do nothing but air grievances, meaning they have no way of excreting the hurts and slights and different things that they deal with on a daily basis. You sit stewed in a environment that says it is okay to hang on to these things and not process them out and not forgive and not let go.
Yeah.
And so you feel justified, even held up and honored sometimes for holding grievances. Yep. And here's the paradoxical thing about some of this. In the conversation with D1 and Lecrae, D1 spoke as the voice of righteousness in this. And then later, someone pointed out of, hey man, we're concerned about D1 because he is in this fear and he's doing the same things that he was speaking as the voice of righteousness out against Lecrae. Now this is doing, and then in the same way, toward the end of the Katt Williams video, Shannon Sharp asked Katt Williams about Kanye West, and I think one of the most salient things that he said in the whole video was he says, if we know someone has mental health issues and yet we still keep putting a mic in front of their face and platforming them, I think that we're pretty terrible people.
Yeah.
And in the same way, we know that Katt has some struggles.
Yep.
So to keep platforming him and putting a mic in front of him, which he has been invited for several more interviews on the same topics after this one, I think that makes us pretty terrible people.
And here's the thing, it's not just the people that are putting the microphone in front of them, because they're getting a check to put the microphone in front of them, but we benefit too. When we share, when we continue to post and talk about without context, right? Like when we continue to just push that same monster, we're doing the same thing. We're doing the same thing.
It's usury, man. It's usury.
Yeah.
And I don't think Shannon knew what he was walking into.
he
said that much.
He said that. He's
like, man, I didn't know. His production guy told him, he's like, man, this is gonna break the internet. Like they were like looking at each other stunned when they said cut, because they didn't know what they were walking into. But I think the people after that definitely knew, and they wanted to ride that train.
And here's something I want to talk about real quick as we get ready to wrap up. If I've used someone, what do I do? There's a country artist that I just found out about recently through a really odd story that we don't have time for today. But there's a country artist that got caught on tape saying the N-word. And so he immediately lost like his deal with his record label. He had some awards he was up for. That stuff got canceled. He lost his whole career, right? But of course, it was a viral moment. Broke the internet. So then he was on doing this interview. And he was talking about it. He's like, hey, I heard this going on, and he starts apologizing. He starts talking through it, and I'm like, this is cool. Like, his apology was cool, but I was like, I also know that off of that, he about to make a whole bunch of money just for coming on and apologizing and doing all that.
And he did.
So it's still not just. In the interview, though, what he starts, I think it was with Good Morning America, what he starts saying in the interview, though, is like, yeah, I talked to a lot of people in the black community and through different black organizations, and I thought about, like, after this happened, I went viral, and my album sales bumped up. Me and my publicist looked at the album sales and the bump and the spike. We calculated how much we would have made from the publicity spike, and we donated it to charities that had to do with African American and race relations.
There has to be restitution
in the country. There has to be restitution.
Has to be restitution.
If you've been a part of the rumor mill, I'm not even just saying with Katt Williams, but with other people, maybe you've been thinking about this. You're like, man, there's that one guy, and they're not really famous, but I did some damage. Think about what restitution looks like. It's not enough to just stop sharing, to just stop posting. Think, hey, what does it look like to help somebody get back some of what was lost, or to use, if I gained a platform from sharing these lies or from sharing different things that I knew tore people down, how do I use some of that platform to repair some of the damages? And that's how we can use our blinkers to treat each other well here in the traffic reports.
And that's a good word.
Yep. Well, hey, continue to like, comment, share, subscribe, all of those social media things. Do it. We really appreciate it. It helps us out. And we'll see you next time in the intersection.